Today's podcast is brought to you by Casper.com. Receive $50 towards any mattress purchase at www.caspertrial.com/SIBSB.
Until I met my new best friend, all of my boys say I'm tripping. When they call, I'm not answering. They always get my voice.
Alex, are we rolling? We are rolling. Welcome to another episode of Sorry I've Been So Busy. This is the podcast where we talk to very busy people about what they are busy with. Sometimes we talk to not very busy people about what they are pretending to be busy with all day. My name is Matt Goldich, at Matt Goldich on Twitter. Beat you to the punch on that one. I'm here with Andrew Goldstein.
At Ange Gold on Twitter, ANGEGOLD.
Yeah, we're here at the wonderful Showbiz Studios. Great to see you, Andrew.
Likewise.
And we have a great guest we're very excited to talk to. That's coming up in a few minutes.
What's been going on, Matt?
Well, I've been very busy. I took my son to his first baseball game.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I got an initial invite to that game. I couldn't go.
Yeah, it was a
doubleheader.
Phillies, yeah. Well, so I figured first baseball game, let's play two. No, what happened was, so when you have a kid, he's 3, and it's hard to find a good time to go to a baseball game because, first of all, a night game probably not going to work. You're going to make a couple innings. And 1 o'clock, some people, is the typical time for a day game, but that's generally right during either nap time, or if not nap, it's right when things get cranky because nap should be.
Sure.
So when I found out that the Phillies, there was a rescheduled game at Citi Field that it was a doubleheader, and the first game was at 4, and I was like, oh, perfect, 4.
It's right in the wheelhouse.
Go.
Post-nap.
Yeah, perfect, feeling good. And and baseball, I think, is the right sport to take your kid to. Football would be too crazy there.
Yeah, and the fans are too intense.
Yeah, basketball, it's like indoors.
Baseball is just
it's like
old
loud
dudes sitting there charting the game.
Baseball is really, as long as it's not like a crowded playoff game, it's really like going to like a county fair. It's like going to a carnival. You know what I mean? Like you're outside. There's a lot of other stuff going on. As an adult, it's like if you miss a couple innings because you have to like walk around and like go check out the stadium, like who cares? Like you're not. Yeah. So. I mean, he loved, first of all, taking the 7 train out to Citi Field.
So much
great
fun,
because you're
sure.
above ground. You see everything. And then get there.
He loves it because he can be on his phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get service. I mean, immediately, we get popcorn, and it comes in like a fun box or whatever. He sits down and he's noticing things that I've never noticed before. Being like, there's a pigeon. There's a things where you're just like, oh, it's exciting. You get to have a hot dog.
He's like, there's Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah, these are all the food. The food at a baseball game is all stuff that a 3-year-old would enjoy. So it's like,
all of it. So, I texted you. Did you get him ice cream in a baseball helmet?
We didn't make it that far. We had the popcorn. He liked cracking the peanuts in the shells.
That's fun.
Which was
no
my
peanut
favorite.
allergy. Thank God.
Loves the fact that you can just then throw the shells on the ground.
The best.
Which is the best.
The only other place is the movie theater.
Yeah, or like I don't know, even in the movie theater, I feel bad about it. You could do it in like Texas Roadhouse or something. And then, was a little disappointed the Philly Fanatic was not there because we were at Citi Field, but loved Mr. Met, which I was fine with.
Why would the Philly Fanatic be at the Met?
No, I'm saying, I may have, the Phillies. He associates the Phillies with the Philly Fanatic.
Been disappointed.
Yeah. So, but he liked Mr. Met. He liked that he had a baseball head. And then,
did he see any home runs? So we got to see the baseball come out of the hat.
Yeah, unfortunately. It was a walk-off home
run
by
them. Sorry, it's
there was a ton of cheering during the walk-off home run by the Mets, and of course he wanted to participate in the cheering because there was a lot of clapping and cheering. But
his team.
We had to be like, no, sit down.
You stayed for the whole game with a 3-year-old?
We got there like mid-second inning, and then he left before the second game.
That's pretty great.
But he probably the most exciting part for him between the two games, the groundskeepers come out. So that's really so I love that. Love the smoothing of the dirt. All the machines, the dirt, blah blah blah. So that's so that part was very exciting.
I mean, it's such a thrill. I remember the first baseball games I was taken to. It's so much fun. You just feel like it's just like a privilege.
Yeah, and we sat in the outfield because I didn't want to sit anywhere where we were at risk of a foul ball coming.
Sure, yeah,
Ended up
very
being
responsible.
in the shade. Yeah, there. Yeah.
This is for you, so you don't get hit.
No, so I don't get hit. Yeah, trying to. Yeah.
Always.
And Citi Field is really nice. Lots to see. I mean, like you can literally go out on the the concourse, and you can see the 7 train coming by. You can see the tennis stadium. There's a lot. So it was a great experience. I highly recommend it. Taking your kid to a baseball game, as you know.
Well, many more to come. I hope so. I can come at some point.
Yeah. It was really fun. And the Phillies did lose the first game, but they won the second one.
They're in first place right now.
Crazy.
Shout out to the Phillies.
So that's what I've been busy with. And that's we'll get to our guests right now. So we'll be right back. For you, the listeners of Sorry I've Been So Busy, Casper is offering $50 towards any mattress purchase at Casper.com. This is something we talk about all the time on the podcast. Everybody's so busy. They don't get enough sleep. Their sleep is interrupted. They got their phone by the bed. They're checking it in the middle of the night. We're not going to change any of these things, so why not get a better sleep on a better mattress from Casper.com? To receive $50 towards any mattress purchase, go to CasperTrial.com/SIBSB. Again, that's CasperTrial.com/SIBSB for $50 towards any mattress purchase. All right, and we're back. We're here with our guest. We're back, right? And we're very excited to have her. Someone I met a few years ago, and she has a new book out called 90s Bitch, that we're going to talk about. That and a lot of other things. Allison Yarrow is here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Allison.
Hi.
We and I just wanted to confirm, because I've met you a few times, and you sometimes go by Allie, but we were talking about the fact that your Allie sometimes has one L.
It always has one L.
Okay.
It just might be the wrong way to spell it.
Right, A-L. But there's no good. I was saying there's no good way to shorten the 2L Allison, unless it's Allie, A-L-L-I-E.
Because you're adding a letter. Too. You're adding that E.
Yeah.
Well, in Karate Kid, she was Allie with an I.
A-L-I.
I think so.
Yeah, but she was saying that sometimes people misunderstand.
Yeah.
They think that that's Ali.
True.
Which is challenging, yes. But anyway, thank you so much for coming in.
And thank you for the Airheads.
Yeah.
Oh,
no
yeah,
problem.
wow. What's with the... is that specifically 90s candy? Is that why... yeah.
Airheads and Sour Patch Kids. I ate
Great.
both of those in the 90s.
They make new... you know how... Cheeto, like, what's it called?
Flamin' Hot
Cheetos. They make like a spicy, like cinnamon flavored Sour Patch Kid now. We had them at work.
Stop.
Yeah, so they're like fiery.
Are they good?
They're pretty good. I would think I wouldn't like them, but it's like a hot cinnamon.
I also would think I wouldn't like them.
Yeah.
I wonder...
It cuts through the tartness.
Do you think candy was like a 90s thing because it was the 90s, or because we were teenagers? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, are all teenagers at all times into candy?
That's a really good question. I think all teenagers at all times are really into candy.
I think I've said this before, that after lunch in high school, which is right in 94 to 97, I would eat either a pack of Mentos or a pack of Spree every single day, which is
Spree are interesting.
Which is insane to think about now. I would never touch either.
My candy interests have changed over the years. Like now, I have like such a renewed chocolate obsession.
Yeah.
Like working on TV sets, Hershey's miniatures have become like an addictive thing for me, where I have to eat like 4.
Do you eat a lot of candy still, or is you mostly...
No, but when I was a kid, I aspired to be one of the Babysitters Club members,
Yes.
Claudia, she would hide junk food in her room. And so I tried that because my parents were really into health food.
Yeah.
So I would somehow like find junk food and then hide it, and then it would just get gross. It was a really bad idea, but she made it seem like such a smart thing to do.
No, that's like when you get food at camp and you get it
You
sent
hide
to you
it.
and it melts all immediately. Yeah. It's funny you should mention that. I saw the Babysitters Club mentioned in the book, and I'm one of only 2 guys, I guess 3 technically guys I know who ever read like 30 Babysitters Club books.
30?
One is Julian McCullough, who actually has been on our show and talked about it in his Comedy Central special. And then me and my friend Scott, growing up, we used to read all of the Babysitters Club books.
What was so appealing about those books to you?
It was this window into the world of...
I guess, I don't know, they were like a fast read. It's sort of like one of those things where your friend is doing it, so you just read them, and you don't really think of how, I don't know why. It was something, I don't really remember, but were they like an insight into the world of girls? I don't remember it that way.
I felt that way, or I felt like they were an insight for me into a world of girls that I didn't know yet, that I wanted to be a part of. It was sort of about female friendship, but like blossoming, and it was...
That was more 90210 for me.
90210, very prominently featured in the book.
Specifically watched it to have something to talk to girls about. And it worked very well.
To talk about the show itself or the issues in the show?
The show itself.
Right.
Always be ready with a quick Emily Valentine reference.
Yes.
And that's like esoterica 90210 because she wasn't there from the beginning.
I easily could have gone Shannon Doherty. Or
I watched for the
Brenda
first season or two. That guy kills himself by accident.
Amazing.
It was amazing. Sure.
Scott.
Let's have a moment of silence for Scott.
That was one of the things that was interesting for me about reading. I read that in the book, the part where you're talking about how, I don't know, I guess for me, I always assumed like 90210 was like a thing like girls were really into, but like the way you described it, it's like almost like it was forced on. It's like a
because guys like me were watching
like the making
thinking,
of foie, but also like it was created by a man, right? And it was
Darren
like basically
Star.
this and Aaron Spelling. It was like this idea of it was like one idea of what it's like to be a girl that was very much like forced down people's throats and what girls were interested in. That's sort of like the sense I got, right?
I loved 90210.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll talk to you about it. It's a show that at the time we think of marketing to teens and kids as something that's like air and water now. But at the time, there really wasn't a ton of that. 90210 was sort of one of the first of its kind to specifically market to kids and to teens. Yeah. And they did all of these partnerships at the time with like Caboodles, the makeup organizers, and Honey Nut Cheerios, which is like a cereal that's marketed to very young children. Yeah. But the show was sort of about these boys and girls in high school in, Beverly Hills. They had a lot of money. They had fancy cars. The opening sequence is just like all of these, designer stores on Rodeo Drive. So it was this kind of life sort of after a recession in America that seemed really sparkly and desirable. But the girl characters really only, like looking back, I didn't see this at the time, but looking back and sort of doing the research for this book, I realized that these young women characters only, were only able to care about their appearance and their relationship to boys and whether or not they were sexually attractive. The boys had sort of the meatier plot lines. They, were the head of the school paper. They were on the sports team. Yeah. They were they had sort of more intellectual dilemmas. And that divide was really stark. But I feel like a lot of people like me grew up watching that show and not seeing that and sort of internalizing the depictions of boys versus girls.
Yeah. Well, I just want on the record, I did like Andrea always the best. So that makes me...
you were way advanced.
She was Jewish.
Yes. Well, there you go. That's a big part of it.
And perpetually single for most of the show.
So there you
punished
go.
with singleness for being smart.
I identified with that as a
secretly
teenager,
obsessed with Brandon, who she can't have. I get it.
Yeah.
It's
so strange. It's like... I never really thought about it in those terms, but it does make a lot of sense. And it makes you wonder, let's say there was a show that, I guess they try to do this now where it's still all the glitz and glamour and nice stuff and material, but with a more positive message for young girls. Would that succeed or would it, I don't know. Is there a way to do that, to thread that needle without having it? I guess if you make all the characters equally interesting, right, and have all the same problems. Yeah,
it should be, they maybe should have had sort of more female characters who had storylines that were rich and evocative of complexity instead of just, were they wearing the right bikini? I
always thought of it as they were until I was reading your thing of they were all equally shallow. You know what I mean? It never really occurred to me that
they did have Donna Martin, they did have Tori Spelling's learning disability, they did have Kelly's rape, they did have
they tackled
Andrea's,
big issues.
Being poor and being found out that she lives in the valley.
And that was new for television as well, sort of addressing, Brenda has a breast cancer scare, and there's sort of one of my favorite sort of moments from 90210 that's so evocative of the 90s and kind of what was going on is when she loses her virginity to Dylan, because it's this moment they've been planning for it for episodes and talking about it.
We'll make our appearance, and then we'll make our disappearance.
Yeah.
That was Dylan's line.
Was that his line?
Yeah, because they went to the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was at the dance. Yeah, and so,
they went to the Bellage Hotel. Come on.
And she lost her virginity. She loved it.
Club, yeah.
She loved having sex with him. And then there were all of these, all of the young women my age dreamed about it.
And now he's on Riverdale, Luke Perry.
Is he? He's like a father? Yeah, continue. Yeah.
He's the dad.
Yeah, so, she made the choice. They made the choice together to have sex. And then there was this campaign. Parents were so angry that a television character, a young teenage female television character had sex on television and there were no consequences. So there was like a letter writing campaign and people were really angry. And so then episodes later, not sure if it's because of the campaign, she then regrets the decision.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's something I don't know. I was not aware of the political implications or the social implications of the episodes. That's interesting. I don't even think to this day
I wasn't at
knew
the
that.
time. It took really going back as a
Yeah.
journalist and
But
kind
that-
of reading and
Wow.
That's also
And then it
reporting.
affected storyline down the road.
That's
Wow.
also like a weird thing of like, if you think about it, like it was probably the people who probably wanted her to have consequences were like these conservative, like puritanical type people. But then the fact that she regrets it is actually maybe a more realistic depiction of what it's like to be a teenager. So in a weird way, it's sort of they backed into something that kind of made. I don't know. It's very, very interested and layered. Like when you think about like all the
yeah, particularly because the 90s was this moment of like abstinence only education really sweeping the country. And so, you know, young girls and boys were not being taught about authentic sexual desire
I had
or
to learn
pleasure.
it from Fox. Yeah,
yeah,
from 90210.
and
yeah.
90210.
What can you? We should go back and just tell people like a little bit about what the book is about and where it came from. 90s Bitch. 90s Bitch is the name of the. That's you just keep repeating the name of the book. That's
Yeah.
why you plug. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It's called 90s Bitch, Media, Culture, and the Failed Promise of Gender Equality. And so basically, I sort of returned to the decade. I was 8 to 18 years old during the decade.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of warm memories when I returned to it. I'm a journalist. I've covered gender for a long time. And I wondered if there was a story about women in the 90s, what would the story be? So I kind of returned and thought, like, oh, I have all these warm memories about the 90s. I loved TLC. I hated Brenda from 90210. But, you know, if you go back to the historical record and you sort of look at all of the stories, I had a lot of negative feelings about a lot of women who made the news in the 90s. So Hillary Clinton, Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan, Anita Hill, Monica Lewinsky. There's so many women who were sort of in the news, prominently featured in the 90s. And I wondered why I had such negative feelings about all of them. And sort of when I returned to their stories, what I realized, looking at the reporting, the television, the radio, newspaper clippings, political speeches, they were cast as bitches by the mainstream media narrative. And I coined this term bitchification as something that was done to them. So there wasn't something problematic with the characters of these women. They were victims of sexism. They were victims of bitchification, which is when women were systematically undermined, objectified, and their progress was thwarted.
And it's crazy. I mean, you started this. When did you start, like, the process of researching and writing this book?
It's about 4 years in the making.
And could you have ever imagined, like, how timely it would be?
No.
Yeah.
No. I started writing it, right after Hillary Clinton announced that
Right.
she would be running for president. And
Yeah.
then I kind of finished it right after she lost.
Yeah.
So I sort of, throughout the time I was writing it, in the back of my head, I was thinking, well, gender parity will be here. Once she's
Yeah.
elected, we'll have a female president.
Oh, my God.
I've been constantly amazed at the vendetta that a certain sect of society has for Hillary Clinton. Like, she's lost, and it's still every day talking about Hillary,
Comes from
blaming
the top,
Hillary.
But yeah.
No, I know.
And it comes from people on the left, too.
But
I
it's
guess.
just
But,
like
yeah.
this vendetta is the only word I can think about. Of like, God forbid she was first lady.
We
Yeah.
hate women in power. We hate them.
Yeah,
Name one powerful woman who we love.
Yeah.
We
it's
love.
really, I mean,
Imelda Marcos.
like, even like, I guess you could say, well, I mean, you can't really count like the right hating like Michelle Obama. I mean, like Michelle Obama's pretty universally beloved among
Beyonce
people who are
is,
like
like, the
normal.
only
Yeah,
universal-
But remember,
beloved.
Michelle Obama during the campaign was, she was
Yeah.
painted as
No,
an
it's
angry
true.
black woman.
No, there's
with the New
nobody.
Yorker cover.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah,
Oprah.
I mean, the Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding thing is the perfect example of that, where it's like people ended up hating both of them. I mean, for different reasons. When I was reading about it in the book, I was like, ugh, they both got like screwed in this thing. Like, it's crazy how, I mean, if anything, like Tanya Harding's kind of getting her redemption now. And then, of course, people are like, well, where's Nancy Kerrigan's redemption? It's like you can't have just both. I don't know. But I mean, it really is. Yeah, I mean, some of these these stories are like more relevant today than, I mean, it's crazy to think, like, imagine if like Trump had won and then the Me Too movement, and then you had decided it would be a good time to like write a book about women in the 90s. Like, it would have been another 3 years before it came out. And then, I mean, it's always going to be relevant, but it's so relevant right now.
Sexism is so hot right now.
Yeah, sexism is very hot right now. The sexism category on Amazon
very on trend.
Is very Phil. But I mean, like, you know, especially some of the people you talk about in the book. I mean, you know, being in the pop culture news. I mean, the Marsha Clarks and the Tanya Hardings and stuff. There's just so much in here that people are talking about right now.
That was so shocking to me, the extent to which all of these women, whether they were in politics or entertainment or they were lawyers, I mean, it didn't matter. If they were in the news, they received this treatment. It was universal. And that was what was so shocking to me. And going around talking about the book, what's been so interesting is women are seeing this as a way, like an infrastructure, kind of a something to plug into and realize, like, I've been gaslit about the sexism I've experienced in my life. And, like, here is the proof that it's there.
This is a weird question because obviously, like, things seem so bad right now. But, like, are things better now that people are even, like, recognizing this stuff?
Talking about
people
it?
are talking about it? Like,
I think
there's
absolutely.
a movement?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
has
I
a
think
hashtag.
There's a hashtag.
There's multiple. There's many
movement.
hashtags. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's better. I think it's better because we're more sophisticated news consumers. We're really able to see and call out sexist coverage of a female political candidate who's being sort of written about because she has a certain hairstyle or makeup or skirt length.
Right, like
and
that
not
shit
a man.
doesn't fly anymore. The shit that happened to Marsha
mean,
Clark just does not fly
it
anymore.
would fly on Fox News.
It flies,
maybe,
but there's millions of people on Twitter and Facebook who
there's
are
people
like,
who will call you out on your bullshit.
There's the feminist internet,
Yeah.
which has played a really large role in holding sort of feet to the fire on this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but I want people to know, you know, because we were talking about. I mean, like, if there are people who maybe wouldn't necessarily pick up this book, I mean, like, anything about Alanis Morissette, I'm in. Like, you know, stuff like that where it's just like, yeah, I would love to read about that. I would love to read about Marsha Clark.
Did she get backlash for talking about handjobs in movie theaters, and did they make her a bitch?
Yeah, and a slut.
It's crazy. On the front of Rolling
Yeah,
Stone, I did not remember that, like, when her first album came out, that on the front of Rolling Stone it said "angry white female," which, like, I guess you can make the argument
like
like she was
angst,
trying to
but-
reclaim that, but, like, not really. Like, just let her be a fucking Alanis Morissette.
It was a genre.
It's just so weird. Yeah.
I have it's not a fun, but I have I knew you were coming on, and there was an example just this weekend. I was with my family, and as a family, we watched the Coney Island July 4th hot dog eating contest. And so ESPN covered it like an event, a sporting event. They had sideline correspondents and glossy packages, like bio packages on all the performers. And so they were giving equal time to all of the female participants in the female competition. And they were doing, again, the bio packages, and they were talking up the returning champion and showing the title belt and who's going to win and this and that. And then they skipped completely over the competition and just announced who won, and then go to like 45 minutes of the male,
Even in the hot dog eating
of the
world.
contest. And I was like, well, that's pretty shit. I mean, that's shitty in general, but especially in the Me Too era. I mean,
I was talking
who made
about
that
this with
decision?
somebody the other day about how like in like the Women's World Cup they played on turf, AstroTurf, and like in the United States, women's soccer is 10 times more popular than men's. Like, it's the stuff that's still just like, I can't even imagine what it's like, all these little pinpricks of like every day, like just a million things just being unfair. But that's, I mean, like, I guess the good news is, like, in the last year, especially, like, I think guys like us are sort of waking up to this, where it's like, I mean, it seems crazy to think, like, I was kind of
we
like,
definitely hear ourselves now.
yes.
Whereas before it was like, you just say it and it move on, and you don't think too much.
I don't know. I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, what's your? I mean,
Wow.
like, what in terms of what? Like, why do you say wow?
I'm so happy to hear that.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I think like a lot of us thought we were like good, well-meaning like people who like, well, we're on the right side of things, like, you know. But then you don't realize like how, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect or that I'm still. It's all stuff we're still working on. Like, I mean, we're trying to be, but I mean, I think it's made. I mean, because it's not that shocking that, like, it's hard to say, but, like the Harvey Weinsteins and the Donald Trumps of the world, like people knew those people existed, but, like, I don't think people realized how much, like, people who are well-meaning, who are generally good people, were, like, not doing our part in, like, moving things forward. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it takes sometimes those egregious kind of otherworldly bad examples to kind of even move stuff to the center. I'm having such interesting conversations now with male friends about sort of interactions with women and the gray area stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we just like really dig in there, because that's where most of this takes place. Like most of it is not Harvey Weinstein and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Most of it is like, I don't know if that was like, did I make the right move with this, person I knew? We had a few too many drinks. Like that's more where it is.
And some of it is not fun. It's like not fun to like examine your own behavior and be like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my views are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong there. But like, you have to do it. I mean, I can understand why people would push back and like be like, well, that's not me. Like, but because it's not easy to like.
Yeah, it's called work for a reason.
Yeah,
otherwise they'd call it fun.
Yeah.
Did I was interested. I mean, I don't want to get too far into this one, but like the Aziz story was so interesting to me because a lot of that, I mean, it like just talking about it, you feel like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. But like so much, part of it felt like things that happened when I was dating. Like it didn't seem so like I had trouble figuring out who from that one anecdote, who really was like, what was the real transgression, as opposed to like you could make you could find many, but what was the real one?
Yeah,
like,
I think maybe it was sort of what it did was it spoke to kind of like a mentality or kind of a culture of transgressions, and also, I mean, part of it's dicey because the way the story was reported, like, it didn't appear in one of sort of the major places, and it was kind of an essay in this place, and it was sort of just this woman's opinion, and we didn't have that, other side. But I think a lot of people related to it because a lot of women have been in the experience of the woman who wrote about it, or sort of what she says happens. Women have said, this has happened to me too. And it's funny, is I feel like Aziz Ansari, that story in a lot of ways has resulted in more conversations about the kind of work that needs to be done than even Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. I think so too.
Because it's more realistic. Like most men and women can't relate to locking somebody in you're a high-powered executive, but you can, like, on a date, you go back to the person's apartment on the first date and all the pressures that come with that on both sides. It's much more relatable. So I definitely see what you're saying there.
Were you a big Roseanne fan back in the 90s? I mean, I love that show. It's so hard to now with everything that's happened. I remember watching the first episode. Yeah. I mean, and she's really is kind of in many ways, like, it's kind of sad what happened because, like, I mean, I know you talk about her in the book, but she really was in some ways kind of like an icon and she doesn't get credit. A funny thing happened, which is that in between the time that I finished the manuscript and it became bound books, Roseanne showed up again, like became a sensation, and then flamed out like within a couple of months. Right. And what is true about Roseanne is that she is as responsible for shaping American comedy in the 90s as, David Letterman or Jay Leno or Seinfeld. Yeah. Totally. And she does not get credit for that. No, I mean, that show is like, if you watch that first, 5, 6, 7 seasons of that show, I mean, like just in terms of like a pure sitcom, it's the funniest, and so that's part of why it's a real bummer. I mean, I even wanted to like the reboot, even knowing everything I knew about her, and there was funny stuff in there, but it's kind of a bummer that can't have any good things.
Yeah,
but
that was definitely tough.
And you talked to Tanya Harding and you talked to Marcia Clark. Was there anyone like that you were especially excited to talk to when you were writing the book?
Marcia Clark was fascinating to talk about I talked to her, but to talk about as well. I mean, telling her story. She was the lead prosecutor of the O.J. Simpson trial, like the only woman in the room with that level of power. And while the male attorneys, they were quoted on their strategy and intellect, and she was sort of they were reporting on her hair and her skirt length. And it was sort of the judge was even calling the male attorneys by their surnames, but calling her Marcia. So all of these little sort of microaggressions, they add up, and her credibility is undermined. And, you can't say that it affected the outcome of the case, but you also don't know.
Yeah. who knows what affected that out. There's so many.
I watch all that stuff, and so like the OJ series that was just out, and then the Menendez one also, same thing, female attorney, and she just got destroyed by the judge and the just like mounting pile of microaggressions that were thrown at her.
And Marcia Clark said, I wouldn't have ever charged sexism. I didn't think it was sexism. I thought if I said it was sexism that I would be called a lazy excuse for a whiner. I mean, she just didn't even.
An excuse.
Yeah, and then it was interesting to talk to sort of journalists who covered the trial and sat like in spitting distance from Clark, women journalists, and who also did not see the sexism.
Yeah. Well, she, I think in the miniseries she got some like, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Where like it sort of vindicated her a little bit, somewhat. I think it was a more positive portrayal of her, and it's interesting because that was Ryan Murphy, and then he was talking about doing the Lewinsky thing, and then he said not if it, and then I guess he decided not if Lewinsky's not part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting development, right? Like, we want to hear these stories again. We want to retell them, maybe tell them differently, but certainly tell them with the blessing and narrative from the actual women themselves. Imagine that. Imagine that these women are sort of protagonists in their own stories rather than villains or victims.
Well, that is the weird thing, because, like, you do want to hear it from, like, Monica Lewinsky's perspective, but, like, also if she's just like, well, I don't want to retell that story, like, I don't want to go back to that part of my life, you kind of have to respect that and be like, all right, well, I guess we'll never hear that.
Well,
part.
I mean, that's also where I think historians and journalists can step in and fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah.
I also see it a lot because I'm true crime obsessed, and so you see it in Amanda Knox, you see it in Chandra Levy, you see like, oh, well, she was a slut. Well, she was sleeping, she was sleeping to get ahead. She was with every guy on the trip, and like these are like logical. These are lines of logic that like the investigators were using to buttress their theories.
That we see it now is such progress.
Yeah. It's all over true crime. The difference between a male victim,
right,
and a female.
You talked about
Still.
that, right? Like all the
completely.
Lifetime movies and things like that.
Yeah, there was this sort of weird trend, this women in Jep
Yeah.
kind of trend,
Right,
women
so-
in Jeopardy films. It was like made for TV movies where women were being victimized.
You had the statistic of like. I'm not going to get it right, but I don't get anything right. The number of women victims versus male victims. It was in the Jep part. I don't remember.
Is there anything else before we get to your day? Is there anything else fun in the book that you want to mention, or that you want people to?
Because it's been so fun.
No, I mean, like,
Did you
there is,
talk to
'cause
Monica
I don't want to make
fun.
no. I don't want to make it sound like it's like like it's sort of like a pop. I mean, it's about pop culture media in the '90s and how it intersects with. I want people to know, like, it's about interesting stuff that like people will remember and
it's very readable.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Was there a story from the '90s that kind of shocked you in its in sort of like, wow, a revelation, like I never saw that?
I mean, what was shocking was sort of the treatment of everyone being kind of the same, like the same tropes and stereotypes, right? The bitch, the slut, the backstabber, the cat fight, the bad mom, all of these. I think revisiting Lorena Bobbitt's story was really interesting.
Yeah.
And she is just an incredible woman. I mean, Lorena Bobbitt was this manicurist from Virginia who alleges that she was, abused by her husband, John Wayne Bobbitt, for years. And what we know her for is she cut off his penis, and it became just this national and sort of international tabloid story. What kind of got buried beneath all of the jokes that you would imagine ensued was the fact that she had suffered abuse, marital rape, even that evening, she charges, and she wasn't painted as a victim. She was painted as a perpetrator. Yeah. And that was just, I mean, because I remember the jokes. Yeah. Don't you remember the jokes?
There were a lot of jokes about her. Yeah. I mean, yes, for sure. I mean, it was crazy to read like that in like, even like in People magazine, that he was like made to be like a stud and she was like this like crazy like harpy, like what you would think that would be like a, like you said, that's a magazine that women read, and so mostly I would think. And so like the fact that even that's how it was portrayed to women, and I guess like because of the media, like women bought into that. I mean, this is not like that was strange, right?
It's super strange. And she's an incredible woman. I mean, she works with domestic violence victims now. She's going to be the subject of Jordan Peele is EPing a docuseries featuring her coming up. So her story is going to come back in a big way.
Yeah.
And maybe be retold in an interesting way. I mean, it's interesting. There is kind of intrinsic humor in the story.
Sure.
And she sees that too.
I'm fighting against making many jokes.
Well,
I
think if anyone can do it, Jordan Peele can. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, there's thousands of jokes to be made where the guy that got his penis chopped off is the butt of the joke. You know what I mean?
Right? There could have been that humor. I mean, that's the thing.
He should be. I mean, like,
it's not that there's no humor. Yeah. It's this, like, who is the butt of the joke?
He should be. There's certainly a way to tackle it. Yeah.
But then he became like a porn star. I mean, it's just this bizarre turn of events.
No, that's weird. Yeah. All right. So this is the part where we usually ask someone to go through a day in their life. I don't know if there was a day writing the book or touring, doing the book tour, or a particularly interesting recent day in your life that you want to go through.
I wake up early. I have little kids.
Sure. Yeah. How old are your kids?
You can relate. 1.5 and 3.5.
I remember we met because you were about. That it was the Adam and Becky, both former guests.
Yeah.
And you were almost about the same level of pregnant at their wedding.
Yeah,
you and my
Robin
wife.
and I were bumping bellies.
Exactly. You were bumping bellies on the dance floor. Yeah. So you have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5. Okay.
Yeah, and so they get up really early.
How early?
It's killing me. My son gets up like between 5 and 5:45.
We don't get that. That's brutal.
That's early.
Yeah.
When you're in the 5s, it's early.
Yeah.
We're pushing him to 6. How old is your?
No,
October.
He's going to have this first in October. Yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Sleep now.
Have we announced that on the podcast?
I don't know.
October.
We can cut it if you want.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Consider it announced.
Her belly's out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're up, and is a physical child waking you up?
He's stuck in a crib, but it's so loud, and he sounds so desperate that someone's usually in there pretty quickly.
Yeah. My kid likes to go, I'm awake.
He's very
he's very up. Yeah. So anyway, so you wake up early, not by choice, but yeah.
Not by choice. And then usually it's sort of, ferrying them off and then going to work. So like scooting with my daughter to camp. And
What
she likes that little scooter that the New York kids have.
Yeah, of course. You got to have the scooter, and you got to
Does he scoot?
He scoots, but he'll scoot for like a block. And then he'll be like, I'm tired. And then my wife will kind of pull him on the scooter, it's amazing how those, when did those start? When did the scooter start? Because that was not a 90s thing, right?
No, but like they all have them. It's amazing. You'll have one pretty soon after your child is born.
The like longboard with the handle?
Yeah. And it's like
I feel like those were in the 90s.
Were they? It's kind of replaced like the tricycle as like the thing, the must-have.
Well, kids don't want to pedal anymore.
I guess, yeah.
Did kids used to pedal down the street? You don't see bikes on the sidewalk, like little kids and bikes on the sidewalk.
Maybe in the suburbs you do, but I really think more scooters.
I think in the city it's probably different what we're seeing.
Yeah.
What's the food prep situation early in the morning?
Yeah, it's figuring out what they will eat on that given day, which is always an odyssey. Like English muffins, maybe yogurt, something.
I wish I could get my kid to eat an English muffin. I love English muffins, but I don't know. We eat them, and then he'll.
We're back to eating them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've just re-entered our house.
Yeah, and
they're very good. You kind of forget how good they are.
They're delicious.
Yeah, and are you working on other projects? What's your day like?
Well, I usually go, if I'm in New York, I go to the Wing, which is where I work, the lady space.
I've heard about this.
Plugging
My
it out
sister-in-law goes.
Have we talked to anybody else who went to I've talked to people, but have we talked to
Not
people
on the
podcast?
pod, but Jessica.
Can you talk a little about it? I'm curious.
Well, we're not
allowed in, so what goes on in there?
When I tell men, they like to remind me that, isn't there a lawsuit, something about you can't gather just alone, just one gender like that?
There's a lawsuit against it?
Somebody tried one, right?
They're kind of questioning whether or not.
Go, have it.
Yeah. What is it? What's the...
It's an all-women co-working space. It's really beautifully designed.
Is there just one?
There are 3 in New York City.
3 in New York.
Yeah, one in Dumbo, one in Soho, one in Flatiron. They're opening them elsewhere around the country. DC has one.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just a place where you can... I mean, is it like is there additional stuff besides just
It's
having
like
a
a
space
she
to work?
work.
Or
It's she work.
There you go.
Great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's the
Coined it.
competitor. Yes. And so, like, do you just find that it's just a good place to get work done, or is there like additional benefits?
Yeah, there's really good food.
I was going to say, what is there snacks?
Yeah, there's snacks. There's like a kind of a get ready space. You can take a shower there. There's
wow.
a meditation room.
Cannot
It's
take a
beautifully designed, so you feel kind of special when
Yeah.
you enter the space.
Yeah.
And just there's like a lot of good collaboration. I feel like I've met a lot of really
I was going to
wonderful
say
people.
networking seems
Yeah.
to be one of the advantages.
Once you mentioned that there's a shower, now I see why the men are suing, because it sounds like a great. I'm like, I want in on that. You know, now I'm like, oh, there's no shower at WeWork. You know, that's not fair. No, but I mean, there's no. Yeah.
If you just want a shower, just
I
build
guess
a
so.
shower.
Okay,
This-
yeah,
this
it's
whole
true.
conversation-
Don't sue the wing.
No, you
This
don't
whole
have to sue the
conversation
wing.
so far, this story currently, that
Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell's getting this show on Bravo.
Oh,
and
people are very mad about this.
It's called
yeah.
No
Real Men Watch Bravo.
and
I think
women
there was
aren't allowed on the show.
I think there was a little bit of a clickbaity headline. They released a press release.
It's not true.
Where they said it's going to be a show. Have you heard about this? So Andy Cohen is producing a show for Bravo about men who watch Bravo shows, and Jerry O'Connell's going to host, and they're going to have men talking about Bravo shows. And there was a press release that just said it's going to be a show featuring men talking about Bravo shows, and then someone wrote a headline that was like, this show will have no female guests, and it didn't really say that in the press release.
Yeah.
And the headline blew up, and people were very
I can't imagine
upset.
that it would be a hard, fast rule.
You would run out of guests very quickly, I would
Yeah.
think. Right? I don't know. It seems, but I mean, I don't know. I think in like 24 hours they're going to have to release like a new press release that specifically
Yeah.
explains whether they meant to or not. But
Female sidekick.
yeah, I know.
Anyway, that just was a top of mind
Yeah.
because I just was reading the story. But so you go right to the wing as if it's like your office. Do you have like a certain area that you go to?
Yeah, I like the top corner. There's this really comfortable blue couch, and there's like a glass wall, and it overlooks the bridges, sort of the Manhattan Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge and the Carousel. It's a really
Sounds
beautiful
amazing.
spot. It's so nice.
And you just put headphones on and write and research and
I don't do headphones. I like the buzz,
Yeah.
like
the ambient noise.
yeah.
yeah. And what are you working? Are you working on another book right now, or what are you working?
I am. I'm working on another book about kind of in the like childbirth maternal space.
Right.
But also there's definitely a sequel to 90s Bitch because we didn't fix sexism in the 90s.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
So 2000s bitch would be the next one, I guess.
Well, you know,
Or
the kind of
aughts.
sexism.
Aughts, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, the aughts. But
Right.
nobody that did that
Nobody
pick
called-
up to
no,
people.
I don't think
No,
so.
nobody did. Yeah.
The
It
kind
ought
of
to be.
sexism, it ought to. I agree. It's different. I got to figure out exactly what it is, but it's different than it was
Yeah.
in the 90s.
Did you get into what year was Martha Burke and the Masters when she tried to get Augusta National to admit women? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you remember this story? There was a big like oral history of it recently that I read somewhere. But you remember?
I'm from Georgia. This is embarrassing.
I know. Yeah, where it was like they held a protest outside of Augusta National because it was like where the Masters was played, and in response, the Masters decided their solution was to stop having commercials. I don't know if
Naturally.
Yeah, so they were like, we're just not going to have commercials because they didn't want to put any of their sponsors in the position to. Anyway, it was kind of that might have been like 2003. I'm not sure. But
Are you at the wing all day?
yeah, good question.
Or are you like stepping out, getting lunch?
Step out, get lunch. Sometimes, they do a really good job of making you hang out for lunch because the food's really good.
Is it included like in the?
No, you kind of have a tab.
Got it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But then, lately with the book, it's been usually a book event in the evening.
Sure.
So
Oh yeah. So how's that going? The book tour. Do you like doing that? Is that fun?
I do. I love talking to people about it. It makes it real. It reminds me that we need to be having these conversations.
Yeah.
It's hard to have conversations with people who don't agree with me, but I know it's important. So I keep doing that.
Do those people come to the events?
So I did a bookstore event recently where I had a couple of conversations with people who, wanted to tell me how Anita Hill actually chased Clarence Thomas to the next job. And, Monica Lewinsky, the way she was covered by the media was because Hillary Clinton, was directing them to cover her in a bad way. And also women who work in offices have the advantage of using their sexuality to get places in ways that men don't. Like, these were things that people were saying to me. And so it was just it's hard to listen to, but it's a reminder that we've got to keep talking about this stuff.
I was listening to a podcast with, Nell Scoville.
She's so funny.
Yeah, she's great. And she said, she was quoting Gloria Steinem, who said, like, if women could sleep their way to the top, there would be nothing but women at the top. So clearly that doesn't work.
Clearly not
it was very
effective strategy.
I would love to have her on. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so that's like, so I could see how there's within the subset of people who are interested, there's like different, opinions and different but that's good. I mean, I guess usually sometimes people go to like a book event and you just read them and then everybody politely applauds. I guess someone be like, how was the thing? It was really exciting. They got in a back and forth.
I've never read from the book. I don't read from the book at events. Because we talk about it. I want to talk about these issues. I want to tell you the stories and talk about what I found. You can read the book.
Yeah.
You do the Q&A at the end?
Definitely, always Q&A.
Sign copies?
Sign the copies.
How's your signature?
It's improving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Definitely it's gotten better.
I used to sign my
do.
signature over and over again as like a time waster in
practice
in school.
Yeah. It was Andrew Walsh. You would just pretend like you were married to Brandon. So have you been going to a lot of those at night then after the
Yeah, done a few at the Wing, did some other bookstore events and just different. It's good. It's exhausting, but I love doing it.
Oh, speaking of which, something I wanted to mention. Did you thank your nanny in the acknowledgments?
I did.
That was amazing.
You gotta do it.
Love that.
Because there would be no book without her. It's
I know,
the truth.
Right? Yeah, that's
childcare. That's how I get to work.
That's that's like a big thing, right? That a lot of people, they pretend like they're doing it all and they're not. And now the new thing, I feel like the new trend is toward recognizing that, people have help, right?
It takes a village.
Yes, yeah,
guys.
So, I mean, I that was awesome. As somebody who has been in that situation and needed that help, I liked that.
We need to acknowledge that we are supported in many ways, and we're very lucky.
Yeah, great.
Do you have any nanny advice for me as I embark on this journey?
Go with your gut. That's so cliche, but it's so true.
Right. I'm just worried about like casual conversation.
Yeah, it's not important. The thing you realize most important is like, if your kid, if you feel like your kid is comfortable and happy, then you can. Who gives a shit what you want and whether you're comfortable? If you could be you could be so uncomfortable, and it's and then what's night times like at your house? What's evening time like?
Yeah, it's like all hands on deck. It's getting dinner on the table. It's sort of getting the kids to go to bed. They go to bed at different times now, which is complicated. I wish they went to bed kind of at the same time.
Right.
It's negotiating whether or not there will be television. It's reading books.
Screen time, yeah.
What are you guys reading? I always want book recommendations.
With the kids? Anything about trucks and construction vehicles, but then occasionally we can work in some Frog and Toad or some Dr. Seuss, recently we got a book about the Beatles at the library out that we seem to be into.
Ooh, I
don't know, one about Legos. It's just, it could be a different thing every day. But, it's like, you sort of take what you can get. If they're excited about reading, that's great. It doesn't really, as long as it's not like, people fighting and things like that.
Yeah. I feel like that's what you should ask for people to get you.
Yes. Oh my God. You do not want toys.
You don't want other stuff.
I've already been starting to make those claims of I just want a few toys.
No, yeah, you want no toys. You want books. Yeah. And so
comedy biographies.
Yeah, there you go.
Really thick
for
ones.
kids. Yeah. Are you
Too Fat to Fish by Artie Lang? Here, read it.
What time is bedtime in your house for you?
For me, I would like 10. 10 is what I would like.
Right.
It doesn't always happen.
Sure.
Are you doing more work at home?
Yeah.
Laptop out.
Yeah, they go to bed and it's got emails and just hustling.
Yeah, well, you're trying to sell this thing, so that's great. I mean, and I was glad because I was worried because we were delayed in getting you on, but I saw you still have a bunch of book events coming up. So I was like, okay, we're still part of the press tour. We didn't miss the boat. Because I know sometimes people, you're trying to like do a big push right at the beginning, but like, you know, sometimes you want to keep it going, I guess, as long as possible, right?
Yeah, I don't know when this will air, but there's an event on Tuesday in Brooklyn.
Okay, Tuesday in Brooklyn. This might be after that. I'm not sure. It might be next week. But there's more after that?
There's more after that. Good. It's going to keep on rolling.
Nice. Do you have anything else before we get to the blow-off?
No, I think we're good.
Do you blow people off ever, or do you have a time recently when you blew somebody off or used an excuse to get out of something?
I'm so bad at engaging with the parents of other kids who my kid is engaging with. I feel like that is like the low-hanging fruit blow-off. Yeah. I just, there's like texts going or it's like play dates, and I'm so bad. Because I just feel like her time is going to be fine. She's going to be playing at the park, and that'll be fine.
Yeah.
I should do a better job of it, because I know that investing in these relationships could be good moving forward, but I'm bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
What do you do? Do it? Do you?
I mean, it's hard. I think like there's always it's the summer, we're out of town a lot, we're so busy right now. But I mean, also the flip side is like, this is a horrible thing to say, but like sometimes like, after like an hour or two, like it's just you guys and the kid on the weekend. It's like, all right, who can we call? Who else can we hang out with?
For the play
you need a bench of people.
Yeah, so it's nice to have, and I think people are sometimes, they don't mind if you catch them at the right time. They don't mind if it's like, hey, you guys free in an hour. But it is hard to sometimes navigate that of like, are we friends? Are we only friends when the kids are around? Like, are we even friends with, or do our kids just
Are we both going to pay for babysitters to go out to dinner alone?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Are you worth paying a babysitter?
$700.
Are you worth sharing a babysitter?
I've recently realized that dogs come with a great blow-off feature, which is when you're walking and somebody you don't know walks up with another dog and they're like, is he friendly? And you can just be like, no, he's not friendly.
There you go. Mike said about your kid. My kid's not friendly.
It'd be great if you could do that with your kid. Be like, I wouldn't. He's not friendly.
Yeah. Cool.
I think you'll get a friendly one.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, good luck to you in the navigating.
He's just going to watch 90210 reruns.
With the friend.
But now he'll know the...
Yeah, but I'll point out to him that Nat was the only sort of woke.
Was he? I don't know. What if we went back and just found out
Nat was equal opportunity. Everybody was friends with Nat.
Okay, good.
Shout out to Joe E. Tata.
So if you could mention one more time just the book and where people can get it and anything else you want to plug while you're here.
It's called 90s Bitch, Media, Culture, and the Failed Promise of Gender Equality. And I wrote it. And
Great.
It's in bookstores.
Yes. Isn't Prime Day coming up? Is that a big thing? Can people buy it?
Yeah, buy it on Prime Day or buy it from an indie.
Yes,
we love
there
the
you
indies.
go. Okay, good.
Was Bitch tough to get in the title?
So here's the thing about bitch. It's actually not a promotion of the term, the title.
Right.
It was a fact that during the 90s, the word bitch and its corollaries and synonyms
So you had a good
used.
argument to get bitch in the title.
Yeah, and there's still some people who don't want to say it.
Right.
So
you mean in terms of women who don't want it being reclaimed or
Well, I mean,
or like
there are radio hosts who won't say it unless they're saying the title of the word.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The author of 90s B is here.
Yeah, don't trust the B. Yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's a weird, but I think it's better to
it's really
I like
large,
it. But also like
very
people,
large on the
come on,
cover.
it's 2018.
No, I was just curious because in TV we get the rights and the standards and practices notes about.
You can
different
say
words.
It twice. It's like one of those weird things.
Oh, really? That's interesting. See, in the 2000s, there was like a spike in its usage on television.
Yeah. No, I believe that.
You can't call someone a bitch, but they can be a bitch. I don't know. Maybe it's not with bitch. It's with like.
You can call a person a dick, but you can't call a penis a dick. I know that. There's weird rules about like things.
Wow.
Wild.
Yeah.
It sounds wild.
And you're on Twitter and Facebook, so people can find Allison Yarrow. And thank you so much for coming in and talking about it. It was an interesting conversation. I hope we are some of those interesting. I hope like you said, it's good to talk to people who are like not necessarily. So I mean,
Yeah,
not that
we're all doing the
opposite.
work.
We're all doing the work. We're working
work.
on it. We're working on it together.
She and we and he work.
Yes, there you go. That bringing it all back home. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, and stay busy,
Stay
everybody.
busy, everyone.
They only get my voicemail because I'm busy. Whenever I go with her, say I'm busy. And I'm gonna hit you later because I'm busy. Busy with her.